Okay, what does all this mean? Let's say that we're being asked to find the size of an angle theta. And we're given the value of a ratio for a particular trig function. In this case, would you please notice that the cosine of the angle is a negative number? I'm going to unhighlight these now for a minute. And I've also specified that I want you to find the size of that angle in degrees. So I've said do this in degrees because we are going to move into radians in a bit, and I'm going to show you the application of all of this. But also by saying find theta, where theta is less than 360 degrees but greater than or equal to 0 degrees, then I'm asking you to find theta in these four quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have to think about the fact, where is the cosine of an angle negative? Again, from all our work previously, cosine is positive in 1 and 4. So cosine is negative in Roman numeral 2 and Roman numeral 3 quadrants. So step number 1, I'm just going to put here, step number 1 is to find where is it true that the angle is negative. Step number 2, I'm going to suggest that you find the size of the reference angle. Would you please remember that every time we looked at a reference angle, it was a first quadrant angle. So in order to do that, to find the size of a reference angle given cosine is equal to a negative 0.681, I want you to go ahead and find that reference angle by going into your calculator and going second cosine of a positive 0.681. So the reason for a positive and not a negative is because I want a little angle. I want an acute angle. I want a first quadrant angle. When you do that, you're going to find that the size of that reference angle is 47.1 degrees. Final step, step number 3. To find an angle in the second and the third quadrants, we go up here to our table that we developed by this bow tie idea. And theta in the second quadrant would be found by taking 180 degrees and subtracting the reference angle of 47.1. And that would be a 132.9 degree angle. An angle in the third quadrant is always found by taking 180 degrees and adding the reference angle of 47.1, and you'd get a 227.1 degree angle. These are my two answers for this problem. And I would check, let's go ahead and do that in red, I would check these answers by finding the cosine of 132.9 degrees and find the cosine of 227.9 degrees and just check and see that they are actually, let's put an approximate symbol, that they are approximately equal to a negative 0.681. They're not going to be exact because we've done some rounding along the way, but I just want them to be approximately equal to. The calculator could not have found both angles. If you had gone right at the start and done the inverse cosine of a negative 0.681, I believe it would have given you the 132 degrees. So again, it is not able to do both. Let's try this again. If you'd like, you could pause the video and do number 9 on your own. Step number 1. Where can that happen? Where is the tangent of an angle negative? Well, it's positive in 1 and 3. So it's negative in 2 and 4. Step number 2, find a reference angle. To find a reference angle, we're going to go second tan. That's what we tell our calculator. Go in the calculator, go second key, tangent key, and just put the 1.789 so that it will give us an acute, a small, acute, less than 90 degrees reference angle. Step number 3, because this can happen in two places, use our formulas. So in the second quadrant, we'd take 180 degrees and subtract the reference angle and get 119.2. I'm doing that in my head right now. And in the fourth quadrant, since tangent's negative in the fourth, I'd take 360 minus the 60.8 degrees. So I'd get 299.2 degrees. And finally, would you check and see, we're doing this with tangent in mind, so see if the tangent of 119.2 and see if the tangent of 299.2, see if they both turn out to be a negative 1.789. Again, lots of practice problems here. Would you consider pausing the video and doing the next one on your own? Step number 1, where is sine negative? Let's see, 3 and 4, third and fourth quadrant. Step number 2, find your reference angle. I'm just going to put 2 here. Find your reference angle. So second sine of 0.817. And on your calculator, if you type that, you should get 54.8 degrees. Step number 3, sine is negative in the third and the fourth quadrant. So in the third quadrant, I'll take 180 degrees and add 54.8 and get 234.8. In the fourth, I'll take 360 degrees and subtract that reference angle, and I'll get 305.2 degrees. Check these two answers by seeing if the sine of each of those is equal to this negative 0.817. Again, pause and go on and do the actually this next problem is a little bit different. So this next problem has an added feature, and that is not only is the sine of an angle negative, and that's true in the third and the fourth quadrants, but I also want you to, this is only a specification, I want to find the angle theta where the tangent of that angle will also be greater than 0, in other words positive if it's greater than 0. Well, tangent is positive in the first and the third. So in this problem, step number 1 leads me to seeing that this can only happen in one location. It's only the third quadrant where I can find an angle whose sine will be negative and whose tangent will be positive or greater than 0. But the process remains the same. So I find my reference angle by going second sine of 0.192, and that's equal to 11.1 degrees. And now you must only give me a third quadrant angle in this problem. You must only give me the 180 degrees plus the 11.1, or 191.1 degrees. And your check for this one is a bit different. You want to see if the sine of the 191.9 degrees is equal to approximately a negative 0.192. But you also want to see if the tangent of 191.9 degrees is greater than 0, or is it just positive? I don't care what the value is, I just want to know if it's positive. Why don't you pause the video and do the next problem? Okay, so we do have cosine is negative and tangent is negative because it's less than 0. Let's see, cosine is negative in 2 and 3. Tangent is negative in 2 and 4. So these meet in the second quadrant. So I just want to find a second quadrant angle. My reference angle then, using the first statement, is I go into my calculator, inverse cosine of 0.374, and it tells me that that is equal to 68 degrees. The second quadrant angle would be found by taking 180 and subtracting your reference angle. And the only answer for this problem would be 112 degrees. So the cosine of 112 degrees should equal a negative 0.374, and the tangent of 112 degrees should be less than 0, or in other words, negative. Let's do the last problem, and it's a little bit harder because it involves the other 3 trig functions, the harder ones, the reciprocal functions. That's okay. So first of all, two pieces of information. Where is cotangent negative? Let's see, tangent is positive in 1 and 3. So tangent is negative in 2 and 4. And so when I do this, I'm just referring to its reciprocal function. Cosecant is like sine. This says greater than 0 or positive. So where is sine positive? 1 and 2. Where do these meet? Second quadrant. So we've got step number 1 taken care of. A reference angle, when you've got cotangent, remember cotangent is defined here as 0.3256 over 1. If you ever want to put a 1 underneath a number, you're allowed to. So to find the reference angle, you have to go second tangent. That's the only button you have on your calculator. You don't have a cotangent button. And tangent is the reciprocal of cotangent. So you're going to type in 1 over 0.3256, second tan of that. And that's going to give you a 72-degree angle. So finally, in the second quadrant, you're going to take 180 degrees and subtract 72 degrees, and you're going to get an angle of 108 degrees. This concludes, well, actually, I'm sorry, this does not conclude. I think, I'm going to go ahead and do the next problem. So let's finish right here, and maybe we'll come back and grab these last few pieces. So in this problem, it says, don't just find theta. It says once you've found theta, find the sine of theta. So let's come back to that thought later. So let's go over here. Cosine of an angle is positive in 1 and 4. Cotangent of an angle is negative. Well, that's like tangent. Tangent is negative in 2 and 4. So I want to find a fourth quadrant angle. All right, good enough. So to do that, my reference angle would be found by going second cosine of 0.422. The size of that angle is a 65-degree angle. So the fourth quadrant angle that I would find is 360 minus the 65 degrees. So that's 295 degrees. I'm not done now. In this problem, I want to take that angle and I want to find the sine of it. That's what they asked me to find. So find the sine of 295 degrees. And the sine of 295 is equal to a negative 0.906. Finally, I have completed. We'll come back to finish up these last few tidbits in the next